I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Trish.
Mrs. Brew?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Pop?
Here.
Move on to the approval of the agenda. You see you have a new agenda on, that was out here for you, because we added number 15.
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to the approval of the minutes. Anybody have any questions on the minutes? If not, I need a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the regular meeting.
Oh, wait. Was that it in the minutes? Okay, wait, I got a change in the minutes. Let's see. On the second page, appointments and presentations, under Mr. Pop suggestions, it should be Ceasing, C-E-A-S-I-N-G, instead of the spelling that's there. Okay, with that change, do I have a motion?
I make a motion, we approve the minutes of June 17th with the changing of candies. Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
We'll move on to the approval of manifest 2019-14. Any questions, Scott?
I have nothing for tonight.
Brett?
I have none.
Lee?
Yeah, I got one, well, more of a comment here than anything else. Just to let you people know where some of our money is going, between the Michigan Municipal League for Liability and Insurance and the Michigan Municipal Workers' Compensation, our yearly bill is $222,528.25. That's all I have.
Jeremy? I have nothing. Do I have a motion on the manifest?
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest 2019-14 in the amount of $612,899.58. Support.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Did you want to go over the questions from last week, or?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's pull them here. Questions from the previous meeting. We had one that was on the compliance posters. Trish, you want to give an update on your compliance posters?
I'm gonna have to order some more.
Okay, so we had them split up, but we needed to add a couple extra posters. What was it?
Police department.
Oh, and then, yeah, that was all from last meeting.
Okay. Anyone wishing to address the council on an agenda item shall do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. Keep comments limited to 5 minutes per person. We'll move on to public hearing. Do I have a motion? No, we have no public hearing. Move on to appointments and presentations. Ordinance 434, second reading. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, we had the first reading at the last meeting. This is amend the garbage and rubbish ordinance, and it's really to include language for our rubbish container that's normally located over at the DPW shop, and our compost site where it's for residential use only. It's the second reading, and I'm open up for questions.
Any questions? No. No questions.
So for next meeting, we have to advertise for a public hearing, and then we'll do that right away. we'll have the public hearing at the next meeting. And I'll schedule the enactment for the next meeting. If during the public hearing, council wants to go to the following meeting, then we'll just table the enactment.
Move on to appointments, MML Workers' Compensation Fund Board of Trustees.
Okay, this is an annual housekeeping type of agenda item. Every year, we, as members of the workers' comp pool, we get a list of candidates for their board of directors. Again, this year, we received a slate of 3 candidates for 3 positions. So the MML's nominating committee has endorsed the 3 candidates. The council is for council's consideration.
Any questions? If not, do I have a motion? Do you want them separately or together?
I think for this, I think it's fine just to do it together, unless somebody has a specific focus for one of the candidates or anything.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that the 3 candidates proposed by the MML's nominating committee be endorsed by the City of Norway City Council.
Support.
Can we include the names though in the motion? Should we?
If you'd like.
Okay.
Want the names? Dylan Olson, Adam Smith, and David Fasava.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Move on to the approval DDA Main Street Park Project. Mr. Anderson?
All right, we, as we mentioned during budget hearings and through, at the previous meeting, we wanted to get out a conceptual 3D rendering for a project that the DDA has been working on, actually looking at for a couple years, trying to make upgrades to the Main Street parks. We have 2 parks that they're looking at. One is the corner park right at the US 2 Main Street. It's affectionately known as Pocket Park. And the other is a blank slate vacant piece of property next to the American Legion that the city, actually the DDA purchased under the tax reversion tax sale. So the idea is, and through the 3D renderings, is really make the park have a more classical and less maintenance feel to it. We do have a statue that's been in the lobby for a couple of years that's going to be going in the park, and the goal was to have that statue out there by the end of this year and have a phase 1. Now the actual park project is put together in phases, so it's not all at once. We recognize from a budgetary standpoint that it didn't make sense to, from a financial, from our budget to do it all in one fell swoop. So they have budgeted $50,000 this year to put that together, and so we're gonna chip away at the first phase. Basically, it's to remove the stockade, the short stockade fencing for sure, and start working on some of the hardscape items in the park. So, I can answer any questions for you. What we really want to do is have council's nod, a blessing for moving forward. On the Veterans Park, basically, we're just going to clean it up and make it into it'd be like a patio, so we'll have some barrier in the front. We'll work on fixing up the back off the alley, and then hardscape in the middle to make it, to really make it into, like I said, a patio setting, something that we could arrange benches or tables, people can sit. I know the Legion, being right next door, we had a request from them to have consideration for letting them use it as an overflow during their events, which is really not a problem. We just have to have some paperwork put together for that. We also are working on a mural project similar to what you see up in Iron Mountain. We've talked to the organizers of that mural, and I think that they're looking at participating and getting we can get some grant monies for that effort. It will also be something that we work with the school with. So I think it'll be a nice community project as well. So I can entertain any questions if you have them.
I have a question, Ray.
Sure.
There seems to have been some concern with the Legion that will we have access to get in there in case we have to do something? I guess it's just a matter of putting it in writing. That I don't know if you've been contacted, Mr. Carlson?
Not at this point, but I'm sure that I can follow and work together with the city council. And
Yeah, like I
manage
said,
it.
they're a little concerned that if something does happen to that wall where they can get in there and
Sure.
do something to it, you know, whatever it might be.
We've talked about, and we've got to, we have some more conversations that we have to have, giving details of what the park is going to look like. This is a step in that direction. Again, we talked about some legal paperwork. You know, that's border to border with the property owners, so we want to make sure that there's no confusion, you know, by either side, but especially the Legion, because I think that's, you know, it's a park that we want to, we've already tagged it Veterans Park, and we want to make it very tasteful with a veterans theme being right next to the Legion. So I think that would be a nice addition to the downtown.
And another thought was they would prefer to have the final say as to this is what we're going to do, and okay, that's fine with us.
Yes, we're all for that,
Okay.
especially the mural, it's on their wall.
Right, that's, yeah.
You know, so we want to make sure they're involved in every step of the process.
I do like the veterans setup. That from the drawing, it looks really, really nice, and I think it's a big addition. One thing, if I could ask for you to explain how the DDA gets their operation fund.
Yeah, so in 1994, the city created the Downtown Development Authority, established a location, a map, properties that would be in the DDA, and at that time, they did what they call a property evaluation freeze. So then the SEV, the equalized value of the properties, taxable values, were set in 94. The increases, the DDA then receives the increases from that date. So it's roughly, the SEV has increased roughly $8 million. That's not the tax, that's just the SEV portion of it. And so then the DDA collects off of that increase, but what makes it really valuable is that we're collecting on the county tax as well. And so that's bringing additional dollars that can only be spent in the DDA district. But the DDA district is actually very large. It encompasses the highway, it encompasses the industrial area, and it encompasses the downtown. So, you know, we've, over the years, have spent a lot of money from the DDA for infrastructure improvements throughout the district, water, sewer, electric upgrades, roads. We're instrumental in putting in place the Milwaukee Broach project. You know, that was all DDA funds that went and helped that company move in, which wouldn't have happened, by the way, if the DDA did not put in over $100,000 into getting the site ready, you know, for them. And some projects, you know, like I said, on the Main Street, they paid for the streetscape, you know, through their bonding effort. That bond actually comes due in 2024, so that'll increase the amount of funding that they can, projects that they can participate in, so.
You forgot the subdivision, right?
And the Norway Springs subdivision was one of their first projects. I think that was a big addition for the community. So the DDA has put a lot of money into the community in these areas, and you know, really what it comes down to is we've had this philosophy that anytime the DDA can help in the projects, especially infrastructure projects, that's something then that the city can focus outside of the district with available funds.
Yeah, you wanna, because some people out there are gonna think, well, why didn't we do them roads that we were talking about, but that is not in the DDA.
Yeah, they're not in the DDA. The DDA, when we have road work within the district, have stepped up. Railroad Avenue is the latest example. Every inch of DDA available property or roadway was paid by the DDA, so.
But there's
all the
only
industrial
certain
park-
areas that,
They can only spend money in the DDA district, yes.
and that is not part of our budget at all.
No, that's, DDA has their own budget.
So we have no control over
You,
their
you,
budget.
you approve their budget on the annual basis, but they submit their budget to the council, and the council then approves it through the whole, they're part of the whole city budget process.
Ray, do we have well, I know I have one, but I'm sure everybody here does. Do we have a copy of the area that they actually cover, where if somebody comes into the window and
Yes.
says, hey, can I see a copy of it, and then they can tell exactly where this area is? You do have copies?
Yes,
Okay.
and we do have on our webpage a DDA page link, so that should be out there as well.
Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Main Street Parks project be approved to move forward into bidding and construction. The project is to be constructed per the budgeted phases in the DDA annual budget.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. We'll move on to the approval proposal for marketing and sale of the city-owned property.
Okay, as we talked about this past spring, we put together a request for proposal and to have a real estate professional help us manage the sale, the marketing and sale of city-owned properties. As we know, we still have some properties available at the Norway Spring. We have a commercial piece over by the America's Best Inn, and of course, we have the 160 acres out by the golf course and properties on the north side of Oak Crest Drive. Through this effort, we received one interested real estate professional. It's Ryan Gordon, owner of Stevens Real Estate. Mr. Gordon is here this evening to answer any questions council may have. But basically, Mr. Gordon will help help the city manage those vacant properties for sale. His proposal is for 6% or $2,500, whichever is greater. And I think one of the first things I'm going to recommend is the council that Mr. Gordon and I sit down with the current property list to make sure our pricing is valid, and get his recommendation on where we should go with the properties. Ryan, you want to come on up? Let everybody see you. I think they know you from Oak Crest, but give us an idea what you got planned for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ryan Gordon from Stevens Real Estate. Yeah, I guess ultimately what I would like to do is sit down with you, Ray, and get an idea of, here's our master plan, this is what we're looking to do, not just for the next year or 2, 5 years, but for the, for the much longer term. And just get an idea of, hey, this is where we see the city going, or this is how we'd like to develop this, to really truly know, okay, would this be wise of us to sell this for X, and kind of just get a feel for where utilities may go, or kind of get a better idea of what you've got and where you want to go with it.
Anybody else have any questions?
What's the term of the contract, lengthwise?
We didn't have a term. We can establish a term, or if you want to come back and...
So typically, we list properties for 6 months, and if you wanted to, in this case, it probably makes sense to probably do a year.
A year, yeah. That's typically what we've done with a year with the options for extensions.
Right, but it's just not spelled out.
Yeah.
There's no term spelled out in the contract.
No, correct. But with any, like, once, at any point, if you said, we are gonna list, 1, 2, 3 Main Street, okay. At that point, we can spell out any,
Why don't we put together, for council's sake, why don't we have a term, like on our initial agreement here, just do the 1 year where we can come back in a year from now and reevaluate and say, hey, is there anything we want to?
Yeah, I prefer to see a term.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's best for probably both sides.
Both sides, yeah,
Yeah.
because you may want to reevaluate it
Right.
after the year too, so.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Sell lots of them.
Lots of lots?
Yeah, lots of lots.
Yeah.
Do you wanna, vote on this?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's some concerns about the language Mr. Carlson had brought up, if you want to go into detail.
Well, just to make sure it was clear and reflecting Jeremy's comment and Ryan's comment, because he made a proposal regarding, or we're looking at our proposal here tonight, I think it would make sense if, after this is complete, if the council wishes to go with Stevens, Ryan and I can sit down, we can execute and present to the council a listing agreement laying out the parcels after they speak. But just, I was looking at the language for the proposed motion with the costs, and I thought it made sense maybe to change the word cost to commission, as Ryan noted in his proposal. The 6% or $2,500, whichever is greater, just put payable at closing. I think that's normally how they do it with the listing agreement, and I anticipate that's how Ryan would handle it as well. I just wanted to make sure the motion reflected what we would anticipate with a standard listing agreement. So instead of cost, it would be commission, and after whichever is greater, it would be comma, payable at closing, would be my suggestion, just to reflect what Ryan's industry standard is.
And it probably will include a 1-year term.
And include the 1-year term, I think would make sense as well.
Yeah, that all sounds good, right?
Do I have a motion with them changes?
I'll make a motion that we approve Stevens Real Estate to provide marketing and sales representation of city-owned property for a commission of 6% or $2,500, whichever is greater, payable at closing, for the duration of 1-year term.
Support.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Before we go any farther, I'd just like to make a comment or question here, right? I see there's like 8 or 10 in the Third Ward area, and I just can't pick them out in this, is there somehow to get a
Yeah, we can get.
blow up of that whole section, because
At one time, we had a book put together, and we have the overall map, and then we had subsections of the map. I think we'll set up, when we get together, we'll look at putting something together that's very legible, that you can pick those out.
fine.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Thank you. Move on to the approval, the request to purchase city-owned property, Norway Springs subdivision lot number 33.
Okay, on this particular item, we have lot 33, it's a middle lot of, there's 3 lots that are on the eastern end of the Spring subdivision, so it'd be 34 would be the end lot, which is in between Springview Drive and Scenic, and then 33 and then 32. We had a request for 33. The request is for $9,500. It's, we're listing the property at $15,000, so the policy at this point is to, if they aren't willing to pay the listed price or the approved price, that they need to come to council for consideration. In looking at this particular request and putting it out in front of council, it's council's prerogative whether they would be willing to accept that. However, I did write up a couple of concerns that I had. I did actually mention it briefly with Ryan, so he's aware of this request, and I think we even said if you're going to just take a look at it closer, if they had any questions about it. I'm actually suggesting that maybe we table it for a couple weeks, bring it back at our next meeting. Just give us a chance to really dive into it a little bit closer and actually talk to the property owner, get an opportunity that, one of my concerns is that they purchased the middle property and the properties on either end would be probably less attractive. And so, I think that there's probably some conversations that we can or should have with this person. That's my recommendation.
Well, I got a couple comments to make on that. First, I don't know if I can vote on this because it's a relation involved.
Okay.
Grant? Would it be okay? I mean, otherwise I'll abstain. I know you just have to have an excuse for abstaining.
I'm not sure what the relation is, but if you feel it's a conflict and you feel as though it might be an issue, that's generally an actual issue for the council to decide, but my take is always, or my recommendation is always to be safe, avoid the appearance of impropriety, or even put yourself in a position where it would be questioned. So if you feel uncomfortably, and it's a relation, then my ultimate recommendation to the council would be a request that you abstain from it.
Okay. The other thing I have here, item 2 you got, there's been a history of issues locating the sewer lateral due to the depths of the main and lack of lateral documents from the original construction. There could be some additional contractor costs to the homeowner when connecting to the sewer system. Well, that one house, I want to say, I think it was lot 10. The people bought it in 97 or 98, and that area was opened up in 95. They couldn't find the sewer lateral, so they had to dig up a brand-new road. And you can go through that section right now, and you can see exactly where they went. And nobody was ever held accountable for that. And there's other lines out there that are not marked. There's corner markings that were surveyed that aren't there, and they were supposed to be there. The whole thing is a mess, and to me, it's like the city hall here. Look, the things that happened to the city hall since we put in with the air conditioning system, no insulation upstairs. It's like, oh, the city did it. There's no accountability. We don't have to just walk away from it, and we get the shaft once again. It just grates me to no end. That's it.
Any other comments? Is this gonna be a holdback for them? Were they planning on, building right away, or?
I don't believe so.
I didn't have any of that information. I know that it was pending, I believe they were looking at a certain house, and I'm not sure if it was Dickinson Homes or
Was it
one of those.
Dickinson?
It was. And they were looking to see if it would fit on the lot, so there was actually we haven't talked to them since then. So that's what I'm saying. I think we need to go back, talk to them, and just, and work through some details. So they need to be aware of some of these situations as
It's
well.
been a long time since a lot has been purchased up there.
Yeah.
It's been
So,
Especially with them wanting to put a contingent on their purchase. I think it's better not right now to go back and take a look and discuss it.
right, you're better off not to approve it until the contingency is done. So I would, my recommendation is that you table it, bring it back on the 15th, and Ryan and I can take a look at this and talk with the petitioner.
I make a motion, we table this until Ray can come back with us with more information on it
Support.
In July. Is there a date?
in July. July 15th meeting, or the July 15th meeting.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Move on to approval, water department well site pump number 2.
Okay, we had a failure with our VFD, variable frequency drive, and our pump number 2 at the well site. Dave is here, he can give some further explanation.
First part of June and of May, we had a insulator fail on our 3-phase wires coming in. And talking with our electrical, it's a delta system, so it's searching for a ground. So you got 3 phases of wire searching for a ground, so it went through this, only thing it could find was our VFD in the well house. We have 2 other ones there, didn't touch them, but it blew up the VFD where it melted all the wiring, everything to it. Then we come to find out, I had talked to Climate Pump and Well, they were down, we looked at it, took some numbers. There's three VFDs are cheaper or less pricier, but when we install that, we have Johnson Controls stamped on our VFDs. That's made by them, that's by the company. So you can't go back and change a VFD out, and the other two are Johnson Controls, and it all goes into your SCADA system.
We knew that though when we picked Johnson Controls for the SCADA system. That was discussed that anything that had to be replaced with their equipment.
Right, and it took us almost 4.5 weeks with Van Oort constantly calling them to get the approval and price from them to find out about the VFD. So, the recommendation come from Kleiman to talk to Van Oort, do business with Johnson Controls and see what we can come up with. So that's where we have the price of where we're at right now.
Any questions?
I mean, this is something that has to be done, obviously, but budget-wise, I guess we're gonna have to squeeze it in somehow. You know, the water department is running close to the red.
I think on this particular item, I think we'll be able to work it within the maintenance budget, but I do believe that based on that explanation, that we do have an insurance claim out there on this, correct? I mean, because it was a situation with the electric utility.
Right, and like you said, the three phases of wire coming in, there's no ground that trips out to a ground, so our system went right into the building.
Is there a reasoning behind that, why there was no ground?
That's I'm talking electrical, they said it's a Delta system, it's an older system for three-phase, running from, all the way down from 577 through the woods, through Manacors, all the way to the well house. And that was put in 1987. So, you know, I mean, the power-wise is good, but our insulators have failed and caused it to go down. We did find out that if we worked in the well house, we had issues before where we tripped out, then we took a VFD out. Now when we do have an issue, we throw our switch out, neutralize the power to the building, they can get us back up on power, then we can put a switch back to the main line back in. We didn't do it this time, something that we never, hindsight, you know, we could have done to prevent it. Now we move that, switch away from the city power, kick it out, and then we won't have an issue where the back feeds off the main line.
Do I have a motion?
I'll make a,
One question.
Okay.
The price on the quote is less than the price on the recommendation, your sheet. Is it this 6,450 or is it 6,500?
Well, it would be off the quote sheet, 6450.
Sorry.
okay. I'll make a motion, the council approve Van Oort Electric Company to install the well number 2 VFD for a price not to exceed $6,450.
Support.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Can we look at putting something in place to protect that for future,
Yeah.
you know, issues or whatever it may be? I mean, because it's 1986, right? You said all that was wired in there.
What we could look at is if the power fails or something fails, it trips us right out, doesn't switch over to a switch here, it throws the switch off, so we physically go down and we throw our mainline switch back in. It would be similar like a conversion switch, or like a generator come on. We would just have to have it go out to, kick out to go to nothing. So.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to approval IP telecommunications system replacement.
Okay, this particular agenda item was something we discussed during budget hearings. For the last couple of years, we've been crossing our fingers with our phone system here at City Hall that we wouldn't have an issue. Equipment is no longer supported, it's outdated, and it's kind of running on a shoestring at this point. The system was installed, and it's at least over 10 years old, I believe. So for electronics, that's a pretty good run. We advertised for a new system, and we received one responsive bid from GoTech. Our bid was for $23,035. Mr. Gottstein is here to answer any questions you may have, but it's basically a new system for our phone system, not just City Hall, but throughout our whole organization.
I'm Chris Gottstein from GoTech. I can give you a little background on what we currently have. When we took over support almost 5 years ago, they had, CyberZone had installed the phone system that was currently here. And like Ray says, about 10 years old. It was installed at a low bid, and it was kind of a home-built system that CyberZone put in. They kind of mix-matched phones and software and hardware all together to make it work. And unfortunately, the software that is running that phone system was actually developed by a single person over in Europe. And he ended up selling his software to another company that basically discontinued it about 3 years ago. We have since then just been supporting it and trying to keep it running as best we can with the plan that you guys would budget for a replacement soon. So we're at that point. We've limped it along as best we can. We have issues with it. In fact, with some of the new phone changes that Packerland is making, the current system doesn't support many of the features that that system has, and it would be best to have a new system in place that actually can support incoming phone lines. So that's the basic history behind what you guys currently have. What I put together for this particular RFP is a small business phone system. The company that we work with is Allworks. They've been around for 25 years. They're owned by a larger company called Windstream, so they're not going away anytime soon. We're certified to work on the equipment. Both myself and Jim down at the office is certified to work on it. We use it personally in our own office. Been very happy with the quality and performance, and for the price point that it's at. You guys have any questions?
Is this for our entire landline system?
Yes. So this is all the phones at City Hall and all the departments spread out throughout the city. So
How about on the power dam too, or no?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, anything that the fiber is connected to, the fiber ring, we have the phone system on. There's phones down at there's one of the substations, there's a phone down at the lodge at the hydro, actually the phone inside the hydro, so we have the phones kind of small.
Do you have a rough idea as to how long this would take?
I think I had a timeline in the proposal.
I might have missed it.
Figured about 90 or 80 hours total.
But then, I mean, the end of July, August?
It depends. With how we have to order the equipment, that will take about 2 to 3 weeks to come in. And then the biggest thing is going to be the planning of the system, because we want to sit down with staff and go over all the features that they want to see in the system, so that we can kind of put together a plan on how to best program it to fit what the city's needs are. I know we're aware of a lot of the changes that they want, just because they've been asking for things in the current system that we can't do, or that have been a problem with the system. So we'll if it's approved, we will get the equipment ordered, and then we'll start that meeting process. And then once the equipment is in, we'll actually run the system side by side, so that we can program it, get all the features into the system, and have staff test those features so they can get used to the phones and the system. And then we'll do a training session for all the staff members in the office prior to us actually launching the system live. When we pick that go live date, then we'll actually switch the phones over, swap them out to the new system, and then there'll be additional, testing, troubleshooting, and training available after we do that go live.
So we won't be without a phone system?
No, the plan's going to probably be, the plan will be to go do the swap go live over the weekend, so that we have a day or two to actually do all the change out. But with the testing and having the systems running side by side, that'll work out most of the bugs prior to that.
I have a question, another question, probably more for Ray and Mary. How many people do we have on our landline system right now?
Customers?
Customers, yeah. I know a lot of people are getting rid of their landlines, but
But this one's
I like it.
This ain't for the customers, though, it's just for us.
This is
This
the
will be
city-
for-
City Hall and the
Oh, just the city hall.
buildings.
Oh,
Just
The
City Hall,
city
all
itself.
the departments, yeah. it's
okay,
internal.
okay, my mistake.
Anybody have any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that GoTech be approved to provide the replacement of the IP telecommunication system for a price not to exceed $23,035.
Support.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes?
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. We'll move on to the approval equipment lease agreement, City of Norway and Old Crest Golf Course. Mr. Anderson?
Okay, thank you. This is something that City Attorney Carlson worked up for the agreement that we have with the golf club. If you remember back in last fall, they came to us and requested that we agree or put together some financing so that they could replace golf course irrigation pumps at one of the ponds. Due to the restrictions that we have, there was a bonding effort that went forward, and it was actually approved right before the first of the year, this past spring. The equipment was purchased and installed, and so now the final phase of this project is for the club to agree or sign a lease agreement with the city. Under the original terms and current terms, remember, the club was paying 100% of the costs for the financing effort and any of the equipment. So the city still owns the course, the city still owns the property, and this is part of the property on the course. So the city owns the equipment, so the club will be leasing the equipment from the city. Grant, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Nothing of major substance. They're using it a bit, and we need to have a document that enforces that they're paying for the use of that equipment. So this is what that is.
Do I have a motion?
I have a motion, or I'll make a motion that resolution 2019-17 be approved.
Support.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes. Move on to approval, Department of Public Works, dump truck 102 repairs.
Yeah, this is something, and I apologize for not having it over the weekend, but this is something that we picked up this morning, and it's important to move forward. Dump truck number 102 needs some needed repairs. Dave, again, you can give a more detail on that, but we do have an email and a breakdown of those repairs. This is something we need to go to UP International Trucks for. They gave us a price of $1,881.99.
Yeah, what happened on the truck is we lost power, half power, and the computer system comes on. So you go for diagnostics, guys with Schultz equipment because of our computer systems that are in them. They came through and do a complete check of that truck when it's there, and this is what their results are. Tells you low power, tells you that they've noticed oil going into another valve system connector, so you gotta replace that by taking a valve cover off. That gotta be replaced. So it's not an easy task. It's everything's under that hood, so our mechanic recommends we have to go out with this. Especially once they get the computer up and running, they have to put the program in it, so a truck, sort of like our cars and everything you get now, we've got to go back to the dealer to program it.
Any questions? If not, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that UP International Trucks Incorporated be approved to repair city dump truck number 102 for a cost not to exceed $1,881.99.
Support.
Mr. Minigini?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Anyone wishing to address the council on any item of interest shall do so now at the podium. State your name and address for the record. We have no one. We'll move on to...
hang on, Candy.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Chris Gastein, go ahead again. There was some talk, I had talked to Ray and Chief Schaefer last week in regards to security cameras. And I heard there was some interest in potentially some other sites that you guys were looking at monitoring. So I just wanted to give you guys just an update on what those cost estimates would be to add some more cameras and kind of update on the system that we currently have. So if you remember, I believe it was about 3 years ago, we put in a small camera system based on an overall larger proposal that we were working on to put cameras in certain problem areas. So a subset of that was approved, but we still basically had to install the full camera software and system. So we have that basic infrastructure piece in place already. So we have the camera software and the storage for that video. We can handle adding many more cameras to the system. The storage for that video can be expanded. We have enough right now to expand a few more cameras, but if we're going to add, say, 20 more cameras, we have to expand that storage space. It's not terribly expensive. It's a low performance type storage. For the sites that came up in our discussions, the cameras themselves run about $165 a piece. We add another $80 onto them for an IR extender, which allows us to see better at night. So if there's a low light situation, we add these extenders onto them. So if you add that all in, it's a little over $200 per camera. So the cameras themselves aren't terribly expensive. What we find is the sites that we're putting them in are difficult to either get connectivity to, or they require some kind of infrastructure upgrade. So, for instance, we're going to paint cameras in the back of the building here. The cameras are relatively inexpensive because we're built with concrete and attic space and stuff like that. There's a labor aspect to that. But I just want to give you an update and see if there's any questions about cameras, projects, or anything that may be coming up.
Anyone?
I know one of the places we discussed that's going to be difficult would be like the compost site. Because you have no infrastructure.
Actually, the compost site's not that bad. Because we can utilize the cable TV internet. It is right there on the side of the road. That was actually one of the lower cost sites to do. Because we can wirelessly get from the pole where the cable is down into the compost site. There really aren't any trees in the way. So that was fairly minimal. And based on probably only having, I think, one camera out there, it wasn't a major installation. As long as we have approval from the electric department to mount a box on the power pole, which hasn't been a problem in the past, then we can easily get over there and get that set up. So some of the more difficult spots in Strawberry Lake can be a little bit because we have no infrastructure out there. There's no cable lines running through there, so we'd actually have to wirelessly get the signal out to Strawberry Lake from the top of City Hall, which we would actually already have that link in place on City Hall because we connected the cameras downtown. So it's just a matter of getting over to Strawberry Lake and getting that hooked in. So that's a little bit bigger project for the Strawberry Lake, but the campus site isn't actually terrible.
How hard would it be down at Henbury, like the park down there?
Henbury Lake's a tough one. We could easily get to the beach. That's not a problem. Getting back to the fishing piers, without either major tree felling to get enough line of sight to get wireless, I don't know how else we would get down there without actually burying some kind of cable in the ground to get down there. So Hanbury would be quite expensive to actually get something down to the piers at least.
And I know we've had issues in the past at Marion Park with the bathrooms.
Yeah, Marion Park is actually pretty well set up because we still have all the infrastructure in place from the 125. So we have internet out there, we have all the wireless links in place already. It would be, that actually would probably be one of the cheapest spots to put cameras in, just because we have everything there. We literally just have to go up and wire the camera in and activate it. So it would be, in fact, we actually have 2 cameras out in Marion Park that are shooting down on the soccer field right now. They were there for the event. I never actually collected them at the end. So there's cameras there. We can actually just move them to if we really wanted to. So.
Chris, do you also work on our, I'm not sure if I asked this before, on our TV programming? Because I'm still getting calls from people that it's not coming across good. You don't work on that, eh? Okay.
One of the areas that we've struggled with is Strawberry Lake. We still have activity, negative activity down there, just recently, again. So, I know that in talking with the PD, that would definitely be an area that they'd like to see. If we could figure out how to get that covered, they'd like to see that. Now, obviously, Hanbury, that's another tough one, but
It sounds like Strawberry Lake would be a little bit easier with some of the improvements they're doing down there with adding electric around the lake.
Yeah.
So that's usually the most difficult part of getting these systems in place, is having an electric source to get power from to run the cameras. So with the power going down the lake, we could potentially add cameras right down by the water and then bring that signal back up to a center point, collection point. We had to look kind of at the layout. I'm not sure exactly how it all looks right now, but that is making it a little bit easier. But at the minimum, getting some kind of camera or surveillance system off of the pavilion wouldn't be too terrible. It's just that connection back to City Hall. I think there's 1 or 2 trees in the way that we have to deal with. But that was all in the original plan that we put together, so we got that scoped out pretty well as far as how we would accomplish that.
How many cameras do you think before we have to start upgrading?
We don't actually, we can add as many cameras as we want. It's the footage and how long we want to keep the video footage.
Okay.
So one of the issues that we have, say we have 5 cameras downtown that look at US 2 and Main Street right now. They're almost constantly recording because, there's most of the traffic going on. So it's almost like 24-hour recording going on down there versus say like the Hydro, which maybe records 2-3 dozen times during the day of random, guys going down. So it depends on how much recording is happening and how long we want to keep that data. Right now, I think we're keeping it for 40 days. That's just what the police have asked for. So we can probably add, and I think we're not tapping into maybe using about 3/4 of the storage right now, but we're also saving a lot more video than we probably need to.
Yeah.
So we could shave some of that back.
40 days is a long time.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we could scale.
I'm amazed that we even have storage space for that much.
Because you download it, if you got a situation, you look at it, you download it, get it off of that system, and then,
Yeah, usually I know within 2 weeks.
yeah.
The guys have been pretty good. I know that anytime, they're constantly monitoring the back, what's going on, and they pull the data down pretty quick. So we could shorten that out and then probably, easily add more space just by doing that. But again, it would depend on where, Strawberry Lake, you could probably add 4 cameras down there, and it may pretty minimally impact storage based on low activity. There's probably
It
not a
would be
lot.
the same with the compost. I don't imagine that we're going to be taking up too much
2,
of that.
maybe. I think what we said was 2 cameras.
Yeah, we had originally talked 1, but
One.
I haven't been out there. 2 might, usually once we get to the, say the compost site, we get that infrastructure built there and put 1 camera up and realize, okay, we want to see this section over here. That's just a matter of just popping on a camera. You don't have to, really expand it too much down there.
Yeah.
So it's really just getting that infrastructure in place in some of these locations. That's the major expense.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Chris.
Anyone else? We'll move on to mayor and council comments. Scott?
I'd just like to say happy 4th to everyone and be safe.
Brett?
Just be safe on the 4th.
Lee?
Same thing, but if it'd be okay with the council, I would like Ray to make up a resolution in support of line number 5, which is the proposed tunnel under the Mackinac Bridge to run the oil lines. The county has already put a resolution in, and I think most people don't really realize how important this line is, because if they shut it down, your propane's going up around 50–60%. They've paid like $260 million or $620 million of taxes to the state and Bridge, who owns Line 5. It creates a whole bunch of jobs, good paying construction jobs. And like I said, if it's okay, I'd appreciate it. And if anybody needs a sign that says we support the tunnel, I got a bunch of them.
I'll take one.
Thank you, Lee. Jeremy?
Just be safe.
I have a couple comments. As I brought up, as I asked Chris, do we know what's going on with our TV? Because I'm still getting complaints.
I'm not familiar with the complaints. What are the complaints?
I think last week you couldn't even see the people. It looked like it was in the air or something.
Channel 3 is better.
3 is the one again.
Channel 3 is better. The only one that I've seen drop over.
No.
Last night.
I'm talking about our TV channel for,
Channel 7?
Channel 7,
On the video or the ads?
the videos.
That's something that you do have.
Okay, so the actual community channel,
Yeah.
the ads that are coming?
No.
No, the
wait,
video.
The video for the council meetings.
council
People are,
meeting.
yeah, we've been getting complaints for a long time, and we replaced some of that, right?
Yeah.
And we're still having problems when it comes out. It's not, there's still problems with it.
What were specifically the problems?
I think that, last time you could hear us, but you couldn't see us.
Oh, nobody called and told me. I don't know, I didn't know of any problems. I know,
What we found out that last issue that we addressed, the system needs to be shut down and turned back on. The cache doesn't, it runs out of memory. So,
It hasn't been rebooted in like 6 months.
right, so that's a policy procedure that we have now is that it's shut down on a regular basis. So we shouldn't have that issue. We are still running it in dual with the discs until we're absolutely sure it can be worked out. But as this last issue, like I said, I haven't heard.
I'll send Jim down, if not tomorrow, tomorrow or Wednesday, and see if we can look at how the playback is on the player,
yeah.
the media player. I only look at it on YouTube, so I don't know what the YouTube channel
Yeah.
was, so.
So I don't know. That's what somebody brought to my
We
attention.
can check out, we need to check out the YouTube, and if the YouTube is working fine, then it's not the tape, it's not the video. It has to be into the system somehow.
Yeah, the YouTube video always looks good, I haven't seen any issues with the quality or anything like that.
So it's gotta be in the,
Something with the media player.
yeah.
And my other one was, I see you got a thing here from the hospital, and when I was at the county board meeting, they made a resolution to support them. I was wondering what the council wants to do with that.
I don't think it's something the council should take a position on either way. Personally, I support the hospital by going there, but I don't think the city should be taking a position on it.
Anyone else?
I have no problem with it.
Just so the council's aware, Iron Mountain is taking up the issue tonight. I believe Kingsford had took it up at their last meeting. I believe that both communities are going to at least send a letter of support. I believe Writing Township also is sending, so I think maybe you want to take that into consideration. At least a letter of support to follow in line with the other communities.
That's what I was thinking.
I agree. Letter of support, I think, would be a good thing.
So we have that for the next agenda.
Yes.
And then I hope everybody has a great 4th. Be safe, be considerate of your neighbors, people with animals. That's it? Mr. Anderson?
I'll just, again, with the 4th of July, be safe. I also want to just get this out there that, you know, we do have a new fireworks ordinance, mirrors the state ordinance. The city put in place restrictions other than the days that are outlined in the state ordinance. So you need, if you're not sure of the changes, you can contact City Hall, look on the webpage, you can go out online. I mean, you'll see plenty of areas to find what those dates and times are, because it's not just the dates, it's the times have changed as well. They pulled back the firing time to 11:45 PM, so we want to make sure you're aware of the times, as well as the dates.
Grant?
Briefly, I wanted to publicly thank Ms. Perry Byer. Ms. Perry Byer is a very involved citizen with our community and heads up our Youth Advisory Committee. It's a subsection of the Norway Area Community Foundation. And the Youth Advisory Committee does a lot of public good. They put on a mock accident every couple of years to raise awareness about drinking and driving. They do fundraising. They help out with the Spring Classic. They do events with elementary kids and they coordinate the Easter Bunny coming to visit kids in elementary school. They do ice cream sales for fundraisers. Everything they make goes back to the community. Everything the Community Foundation raises goes back for both scholarships and grants. And about 2 weeks ago, they were attending the graduating class, and Perry was down state, and they were recognized on a statewide level and given an award for their philanthropy, fundraising, and community involvement. And they were recognized as one of the top youth advisory committees in the state of Michigan. So I think the community should be very proud of both the young folks that are graduating coming through our schools, and also if you see Perry, thank her for all of her community involvement and donating her time to these young people that are being future leaders and getting back to our community. So
I believe
thank
their
you.
picture was in the paper tonight.
Was it?
Yes.
Okay. Neat award.
Yes, very nice.
Mary, Trish? All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
That Pop. Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Pop?
Yes.
Mrs. Brew?
Yes.
Mr. Kramer?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Meeting adjourned.
Again, I don't